Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we are doing a super in-depth combo tutorial for Ostinato. This is Ostinato specifically from the Melodious deck. You guys know I've been lambing this a little bit. I've done a couple of small combo videos in the last couple weeks, but I really believe this deck is legitimately strong, especially if we are creeping towards Snake Eye as tier 0 as an engine, getting legitimately hit on the ban list. If that happens, this deck has an even better shot. I think this deck is legitimately real, and I think one of the reasons it is Ostinato is one of the most insane one-card combos I've ever seen. This card beats every single hand trap in the game. It does not lose to one hand trap, except for sort of. You'll see. So yeah, today I'm showing you how to beat every single hand trap in a row and even take a combo line where you can go step by step and see, because there are very clear points. Sometimes they're not all super clear, but like there are optimal points where your opponent should hand trap you with a specific hand trap. If it doesn't come down, you know you're pretty much in a good spot, because any other place they'd fire it is going to be suboptimal anyway, and you're probably going to beat it even better or even easier. And we're going to go through it all together. So we're going to do it step by step. So let's get out of here. Let's go to our replays. I've got 8 combos we got to run through. The first one is basic, right? So we're going to go step by step. The first hand traps we need to worry about are the hand traps that can negate Ostinato in the first place. Like, obviously, that's a pain. We don't want that to happen. Let's get this a little bit better in line. So obviously, that is Ash, Cyframe Gear Delta, and I would also say Green Light, and I don't think I have Bell in here either. Bell's another one that's pretty interesting. I didn't realize it, but the second line of text in Ostinato, it does summon a monster back from grave, so you can Bell Ostinato. But at the end of the day, Ash is really the only one of those 4 I mentioned that really see any sort of like consistent play. Like, you see Bell and Delta a little bit in the side deck here or there, but not usually in the main. So not that worried. And even if you do, one, we have 3 Ostinato. It's not once per turn, so if they negate the first one, you can activate a second one. We have 3 Prosperity, which the TCG or the OCG only has 1, so we're much more consistent at finding it again or in the first place. And we also have first move and solo, so we've got multiple ways to just beat one negate on the beginning of this anyway. So let's start with the combo line here. We're going to start with Ostinato. This is just basic. I'm going to show off this combo. We'll come back to it as we go. So activate the second one. We will summon Baka. We want to send Soprano and Refrain. We're going to use Baka. We're going to summon Shapina. I really like going Shapina early in these combos because it lets you get a lot back to hand really early before your opponent may want to hand trap you, and it sets you up with a lot of resources to like already start beating your opponent. So we're going to go ahead and go Shapina. We're going to add back Refrain, normal Refrain, because we want to bait an interruption with this. This card is just asking to be interrupted. If they don't, then you know you're in a pretty good spot at this point if there's no interruption that comes down after the couplet. So we're going to go ahead and reborn Soprano with the couplet, scale couplet. Couplet's going to get the Melodious spell. We're going to use the Melodious spell to get straight into Baka, Atoil. Keep in mind, Atoil, this is 5th summons. We're also beating Nib at this point too. We're going to trigger both the scales to come back out for free follow-up. Soprano's going to get us into Schuberta, and we're actually going to finish off with a draw, a reborn, and an add back. All at the very end here. It's also important to note, if you want to make your board bigger, you could potentially just use Shapina to pend out what's her name? Soprano from hand. You can pen summon Soprano out and then just fuse for a second Schuberta. Now that's weird because if you're going in blind to a matchup, you may not know whether they use the graveyard or not. So Schuberta can be super hit or miss. You don't have to. You can save it for follow-up. There's a pretty good normal summon next turn for follow-up anyway. And I also kind of like leaving Shapina on field because if I banish it to dodge with like a Toil, she's a free add back next turn as well for even more follow-up. So there's a lot of good value there. Plus we got the free random draw. That also helps. At this point, when we've thinned our deck as much as we have, we've got a really good chance at ripping a hand trap here for extra interruption. I love it. So this is the basic combo. This is what you're generally getting through if you resolve your full combo with Ostinato, and that leads us to our actual first hand trap to deal with. So we already talked about Ash and those cards that stop Ostinato itself. Here's what happens if somebody tries to stop Baka. So anyone trying to stop Baka is going to use one of these 3 hand traps: Mourner, Veiler, or Imperm. I've already shown this combo pretty simply. It's one of the cooler combos though, because you play a very specific tech card in the extra. So if Baka gets negated, it has its broken Reborn effect from Grave. So if you summon it in the EMZ to start, you can link it off for Gravity Controller. Nobody in the OCG plays this. Now, to be fair, they don't play Veiler as much as we do, and they don't have Prosperity, so they don't even find Ostinato as often as we do. So it's just a more common situation in the TCG. But there is definitely a drawback of putting this on Veil because it locks you out of some stuff. Anyway, we are able to clear the Baka. We're going to Reborn the Refrain. She's going to search for Couplet. Couplet is going to trigger to then Reborn the Soprano. And now we can just Tribute Summon over the Gravity Controller. That's how you clear it off the field, so that way you can resolve Couplet's effect later for the Fusion spell. So anyway, then we can't even use Bloom's effect, but we're going to link into it using both of our Pendulum monsters. But we just needed to clear them, so that way we can fuse and get them both back into scale. Because we wanted to get Couplet back into scale so we could use it to go ahead and get a search for the fusion spell. So we're going to grab the fusion spell. We are going to officially go into a toil, and making a toil through Imperm Veiler Mourner on our main 1-card play is still pretty powerful because you're also ending up with Concert and Grave. So as soon as the next fusion monster hits the grave, you're drawing a card, and you both have also have both of these scales back at the top in the extra deck. So that way, if you just fusion summon again, they both come back out again, even more follow-up. So I think that's pretty broken considering we have 4 cards in hand, and in this case 3 hand traps. So that can definitely get the job done when your opponent's also gone -1 out of the hand. Okay, so that's combo number 2. Looking at combo number 3, this is a weird one because this is Gamma or Orange Light. Gamma only sees fringe play if they're playing like the Delta package with Gamma in the side deck. And Orange Light's really mainly for the main. So this is like a fringe one, but also going through it, there's not great targets for this. In fact, if you're talking about Baka, you'd rather be imperming them because at least you forced me to do the awkward line with Gravity Controller. If you Orange Light or Gamma this card, you don't force me to make that weird extra deck monster. And so I don't have to do the weird Tribute Summon with Couplet anymore, and my combo actually becomes a lot more clean. So it's actually worse to have these versus Baka specifically. So Baka's a bad target. You summon Shapina. They could technically hit Shapina, but then you just do the same exact line I just showed, right? Link for Gravity Controller and go with the rest. So that doesn't really solve any problems for you. So if they let that resolve, you get to add back Refrain, you normal summon Refrain. If they hit you here, you lose Refrain and the ability to go through Couplet, but then you just link into Bloom. And you just, there you go. Resolve Baka, resolve Bloom, and, you know, you're still going places. So we are able to kind of get pretty far here. We're going to go ahead and make Shuberta. We're going to get Scales back. We are going to search the Concert. We're going to get into a Toil, and, yeah. We're gonna fuse again just to trigger the fusion spell to make sure we get the draw. But yeah, a Toil plus Shuberta, it's awkward as hell. I mean, maybe you're right that you probably should just hit the Shapina there, but you just get punished so hard by so many things if you hit the Shapina. These hand traps are like not amazing. Even these ones, these high impact negate and destroy hand traps, still feel like they always need a second hand trap versus Ostinato. All right, combo number 4. Crow and Bestials or Skullmeister, any of those 3 also added into the pool here. They're actually quite weak by themselves. You need another card with them, but same thing. We're sending the same 2 monsters. We're summoning Baka. We're summoning Shapina. Shapina is going to reborn or add back Refrain. We're normal summoning it. We are searching Couplet. We're going to use Couplet's effect to reborn Soprano, scale Couplet, get the fusion. You know, we're doing all this stuff. They could have technically hit us on like Shapina's effect to add back, but like I just don't know why they would. Or they could have done it on Couplet trying to reborn a monster, but it doesn't target, so even that's not like that great. So we're already making a Toil here. We already have Scales again. We're gonna fuse with these, and then I guess the main target is like, I guess go for Shapina. Maybe they could go for Concert because it's a one-off, but like then we're just gonna play the rest of the duel like through Soprano. Like, that's what we're going to do. And that's totally fine. So, I guess if you could save DD Crow specifically for Concert, but you're already going to let us get to a Toil. You're already going to let us get everything else, basically, and it would have already resolved. You're just basically trying to take away the draw. So, it's like, okay, like, I'm totally cool with that. But look at this. Through the interruption, like, it's full setup, basically. So just really not that scared about it. I do think Bestials are interesting, specifically something like Druisworm, because he can then like immediately threaten your board in terms of like without them having to use any extra cards next turn, they could potentially just turn him to attack and force a Toil out, which is kind of annoying when people can force a Toil out super early. But you know, it is what it is, and it depends on how long they hold it, because if you have Schuberta still, you could actually potentially dodge the Bestial from coming down. Because you could dodge it, and if they only have one, then you could Toil to clear them, and then when it comes back, you can then dodge the Bestial again on their turn. So there are ways to still beat Bestials that way. But again, not very impactful. I threw one in for Ogre as well. There's just not great. Like, Ogre's just not good. You're either hitting like a Soprano on field, Couplet and Scale, or Bloom. They'd love to hit Bloom, but you're just never hitting Bloom. It's always getting chain blocked. So we're going through the same line here. We're going to go ahead and scale Couplet. We're going to activate Couplet. And if they Ogre here, you don't get the fusion. It doesn't matter. We just have access to double Soprano anyway. Look at this. We already have Soprano on field. We got 4 bodies. We can Soprano using Baka and Shapina to make a Toil. And then Soprano immediately, Baka reborn the same Soprano. And then Soprano like add back a monster. Add back like the Shapina. Oh, actually, I guess you would... Yeah, we did already normal. Yeah, but either way, you're getting a double Soprano resolution here, and you're just gonna get to both fusions anyway. So again, not good, not very good. You could have think like, oh, they have scales that are important, like hit the scale. Not enough. All right, now we get to Droll. So this is the first. There's 2 main Droll things you need to consider. The first one is if your opponent if you start with Pot of Prosperity. Now, I talked about this. This is one of the big discrepancies between us and the OCG. We have 3 Prosperity. They only have 1, so we are actually more consistent at finding Ostinato. So if I go Prosperity, grab, and most people think Prosperity is terrible into Droll. Well, this deck still kind of plays under it pretty well. So we're going to go ahead and grab Ostinato off of our Prosperity because our hand was terrible and we needed a way to play. We found our best starter. Good stuff. They drop Droll, and we go... Okay. So we're going to go ahead and go through Baka. So now because we know we're under Droll, we're not sending Refrain. There's no reason to send Refrain because you can't resolve now. So we're going to go ahead and send Soprano and Sonata. We're going to summon Shapina, though, same as before. Shapina is going to add back Soprano, sorry. Then we're going to link straight into Bloom. So if they have another hand trap, we are kind of going straight into Bloom here, which is a little bit different. There's a world where you could have just normal summoned Soprano right out the gate and gone for a fusion summon, but just depends on... Well, that may have been better, but regardless, I'm still showing you like how many resources we have to just beat it. So beating a second hand trap, we'd probably have a better shot if we don't go Bloom here straight up. But, you know, is what it is. So we'll summon another Soprano and a Sonata. We'll add back the other Sonata we already sent. Then we can get into a Toil. We can normal summon. We can fuse into Schuberta. And there you go. I mean, just pretty simple. You basically just go through Soprano instead of going through... You just basically are getting locked at a concert. That's all that Droll does versus us, basically. You're not going to get to concerts, and you're not going to get the draw off concert because you're also under Droll. So that's hidden from you. So now I want to show you what you do against Droll if you didn't start with Prosperity. So you don't know you're under it the whole turn. You're going to play one way, then they're going to drop Droll, and you have to pivot a little bit. So if we go... Ostinato, send the same regular one, Soprano and Refrain. Go Baka summon Shapina. Shapina, add back the Refrain. Normal summon the Refrain, search for Couplet. We're going to trigger Couplet as Chainlink 1. If they have Droll, they have to use it here. They're going to call it Chainlink 2. We're still going to resolve to summon back the Soprano and Grave, which is huge. Then you're going to be able to fuse straight into a Toil. Just get right into Toil for 5th summon. And then we're going to be able to reborn back the Soprano, add back Shapina, make Bloom if you want, pitch Shapina to summon 2 more. You don't even have to go all the way this far if you don't want to, but you could have just made Schuberta straight up there instead of worrying about going into Bloom, but it baits another hand trap if your opponent has it, yada yada, all that stuff. But go ahead and get back Refrain. We have Couplet next turn for guaranteed follow-up, and again, same combo. So we have a combo either way to beat Droll pretty easily. And the last one here is Nib. This one's pretty easy. I've kind of already mentioned it through most of these combos. 5th summon is normally a Toil. So, yeah, Baka is 1. Shapina is 2 here. Refrain is 3. Couplet Reborning Soprano is 4. and then we're going to go ahead and summon a Toil as 5. So now we can dodge Nib at any point. There's one main point where your opponent's going to want a Nib in this line. You're going to get your scales back. When you activate Soprano here, that's when they want a Nib, because they don't want you to resolve that fusion. They want, especially if they're on a graveyard deck, they don't want you to get to Schuberta, but I got bad news for them. So this is the interesting part, is deciding on what you want to save, because I would save a Toil here, but I would let the other two go, and you'll see why. Because we haven't used Baka's graveyard effect yet, so then you get to Concert. Because you let Baka go, she's reborning something, you're triggering Concert to draw, and what you reborn is getting you an add back. So you're literally getting like 3 cards by getting nibbed. It's crazy. And we haven't pen summoned, and you don't do this always, but sometimes you do, and since we added back Soprano, we can just pen summon it again, and then go ahead and use it. You can put back the Baka if you want, and then we go ahead and fuse again for Schuberta. A Toil comes back, and boom, you got to both anyway, and Nib basically did nothing. It came down, and now it's just there. You could bounce it back to hand if you want, off of a Toil on your opponent's turn. Not the end of the world. It is a little bit annoying on the size of Nib, because it is 3k, so it does threaten your guys. But like if you had a bunch of hand traps in hand, you're not worried about, like, all that's the crazy thing, right? Is theoretically all of the things we're talking about today is a hand where you have Ostinato and literally no other engine cards. That means you probably have at least 2 or 3 hand traps in hand. That's the only way you're really even opening a hand like that in the first place. So there's how you beat Nib. So I want to go back to the main combo at the very beginning. I want to run through this because I want to make this an easy process for everybody watching, okay? I want this to be one streamlined thing where you're basically crossing off like boxes, right? Doing a check mark. So the first thing we check for is Ash, Delta, Green Light, Bell, right? We activate Ostinato. They have it. If they have it, you need a second one. If not, then like it's just resolving. So that's step 1, is check for those 4. Then you summon Baka. If Baka activates and it resolves, then we are safe from Imperm Veiler, Mourner. Now, I keep mentioning this, but I just want to reiterate this. I've gone through this. I've looked at the best points to throw these hand traps at this combo. If they're not hitting it on the points that I'm calling for, it's really, really suboptimal for them. Like they're trading terribly, and they're probably trading terribly regardless. But these are the best spots, in my opinion, to be hitting the combo. So if we're resolving it Shapina, we're good. If we go Shapina effect add back, usually there wouldn't want to hand trap Shapina ever. If we resolve Refrain, this is the point where I'm usually like, okay, I guess we're not in the mirror because I'm not worried about Orange Light, or we're pretty safe from Gamma. I know it's a one-off, but some people are siding it. So that's a point where I would be like, okay, we're not worrying about those anymore, because they're not going to have a great chance to hit you with those for the rest of the combo. From here, we can activate Couplet. If they are not chaining Droll, they don't have Droll. That's next on the docket. Ogre and the Crows and Bestials, we already talked about those. Those are just so suboptimal. They have to have 2 hand traps, otherwise they just like, they're barely even hindering us. So I'm not worried about those at all. But we know we're safe from Droll at this point. That's I think that's technically step 5, the way we're doing it. But we're going to grab Concert. We're going to fuse into a Toil. A Toil is 5th summon. So again, we are at that point where I showed you on the last combo. We are under Nib now. We are safe from Nib. And we can still get to Schuberta all the same. Playing under Droll and Nib at the same time is so easy in this deck. It's crazy. So you're going to get back both scales. You're going to go all that, and you're going to get full combo. You're getting a draw. You're getting a summon back. You're getting an add back. You have everything. You can have everything you could ever want. You end with 5 cards still in hand, but with like an extra couple of cards here. Oh, do I even show? Okay, I didn't show the full combo. Okay. You could have also ended on a second Schuberta if it's post side and you know your opponent's on a super heavy graveyard deck. You could definitely play into that even harder by summoning the second Schuberta. Yeah, hopefully this makes sense. I hope it's not too jumbled, but it's a process. If you do the combo this way, Ostinato never loses to 1 hand trap. Never does, unless obviously like the Ash thing. But the deck has pretty consistent ways to have a second one. So there you go. If you want to play this deck, hopefully this video really helps you in the process of at least playing with Ostinato. If you're playing against this deck, hopefully this strikes fear into you in knowing that, like, if you ever line up against a Melodious player and you have 1 hand trapped in hand, you're in a tough pickle. Okay, that's just how it is. That's why I think this deck is cool. It's not necessarily the power of the deck, but it's how the deck plays. It plays in ways that don't commit. There's no super brutal choke point that you consistently go through. The deck has so many ways to like work around stuff and keep playing and at least get to a toil against basically any one interruption. I'm here for it. It's really, really good. So, I'm out of here for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, as always. Let me know your thoughts down below on this. Do you want even more Melodious content? This is just the deck I've been, like, future grinding more than anything. I think the deck's legitimately strong. You guys know that. I think it's going to be there at the end of the day in the competitive scene when these cards come out. But I hope not too many players believe in it, because I'll believe in it and I'll feel good about it. But I'm out here for today. Thank you so much for watching, as always. Let me know your thoughts down below on these combos. Let me know if there's anything else you'd want to see from future deck content, whether it's a different specific deck you want me to look into, whether it's more Melodious stuff that you want to learn about. I can definitely fudge around and see what I can make happen. So, yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.